800-823-5826. 800-823-5826. That's 800-823-5826. If you are trying to quit drinking or doing too many drugs, listen to me. You don't know me and we'll never meet. I had a problem like you once. I drank and used to party a little too much till it got out of control and almost ruined my life. I realized I needed help to fix my problem before it totally destroyed me. If you've tried to fix your drinking and drug problem and you know you can't do it alone, you need to call the National Treatment Advisors. They'll immerse you into a 30-day program to replace your old habits with new habits and totally change your life. And if you have PPO private health insurance, the entire program may be covered. Fix your problem right now before it gets any worse. Get clean. Call now and learn more. 877-247-1581. 877-247-1581. 877-247-1581.
Attention all business owners and creative minds. Do you need a unique and personalized touch for your products? Look no further than Romika Laser Engraving and Custom Designs. I'm Ron Phillips, co-owner of Romika Designs. We offer custom laser engraving services for a variety of products, including promotional items and corporate or personal gifts. With state-of-the-art equipment and a team of skilled designers, we can engrave intricate designs on virtually any material. Whether it's a special message, a company logo, or a custom design, Romika Laser Engraving will help you make your mark. And the best part, our prices are affordable and our turnaround time is quick.
I couldn't be happier with the work Romika Laser Engraving did for me. The engraving on my product was precise and exactly what I wanted.
So don't wait any longer to add a personal touch to your products. Call Romika Laser Engraving and Custom Designs today at 817-400-4040 or visit our website at romikadesigns.com. We look forward to helping you make your mark.
Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to A Common Thread. I'm Sonia B. The wins, the losses, and the curveballs of life. And so we're happy to have you here again. Week 4 of grief, the waves of grief, and how everyone experiences grief and how we can journey together on those on those tides of grief that sometimes come out of nowhere. And so we're just grateful that you're here on last week of grief and grateful that we're able to talk about this topic. It's not something that people talk about too often. And so we're glad that we were able to touch base on this. And normally when we do our podcast, well, kind of to back up a little bit, Eva is still out of town and she'll be back mid-September, and she's in Iceland. So I'm so jealous.
Wow, she's in Iceland till mid-September?
Yeah. Golly.
What is she doing?
She's on a mission trip. And I'm like, can you put me your luggage so I can come with you? I've been dying to go to Iceland. I want to go. So, but anyway, she's having, I'm sure, a blast. And the last week of September when she's back, we're going to talk about her trip. So that'll be fun. But in the meanwhile, I have Miss Tiffany here. I'm going to let her introduce herself. I'll let you do the honors.
Hello. Thanks for having me. Thanks for asking me to guest host with you or be your guest. I'm a guest, which is really, I'm not in the driver's seat, which is kind of nice. Different, but kind of nice. But I'm Tiffany Carlen, also known as Tiffany Hurd. I am a singer and songwriter. And I have a fashion company called Tiffy. I invented a product called Tiffy Sleeves. And I'm also the owner of NTX Radio and host of my own show called Mouthy, which airs Mondays at 6 p.m. and sometimes at some special hours. We did that this past Monday. We had 2 shows on the same day. So
nice.
That was fun.
Yay. Well, thank you.
That's who I am.
That's who you are.
Wife, mom to 3, and ever growing. I hope. I'm trying to constantly be in growth mode on
Yeah.
a personal, emotional, spiritual, and professional level.
Yeah.
So
It's always like, I always feel like the growing, the ing part is always like continuing. Right.
yes,
It's never like you ever reach like a plateau and you're kind of like, I'm there. Now, sometimes you do for a little bit. And then you kind of like, okay, where do I go now? It doesn't, you never stay there.
that's kind of that grief journey too, and conversations I've had with other people about grief is, yes, you're going to be there, and you're going to go through waves and different periods of it. Just don't get stuck there. Don't get stuck there.
Right.
It's when you get stuck there, that's when things get really crazy. I was stuck.
Mm.
I didn't know I was stuck.
We usually don't.
Yeah. Like
Until
I really did not know. Yeah.
Yeah, until somebody points it out. I remember one time as I was doing my clinical pastoral education, someone we were talking about a particular situation that I was a chaplain at, and anyway, we were talking about it, and as I was talking about it, I was sharing my experiences with it. We would have to write about it. And in writing about it, you have to write your feelings behind it, right? Anyway, so as we were sharing this paper and everybody kind of listens, and then after that, everybody dissects basically what you said. And someone in the group said, "Are you stuck in your grief?" Well, I got really upset when he said that. I was putting my sleeves up for a second because, I'm from New York. So
we got that East Coast girl thing going on the table today because she's from New York and I'm from New Jersey
I
originally.
know.
So
So you got East Coast flavor today.
yes.
Anyway, so then he said that and I was so upset. And then it was like this back and forth for like 20 minutes. And then finally this lady in the group said, "Sonia, what if you're stuck in your grief? So what? It's your grief. Do whatever you want with it." But you know what it made me think? It made me think about my grief, and it made me think about where I was at that point in my grief and what I need to do with it. And that am I stuck in it? It made me reflect on it, although I was upset at the moment. But it took me a couple of weeks to kind of like really kind of step back and think about it. So yeah, I mean, we all have those moments, when we're going through our grief journey, but and many times we don't realize it. So I wanted to share some verses because this is a we have a Christian base here, podcast, and although we touch on different topics, but I'm so glad the Bible is not shy about grief. And there's a few here that are really comforting to me, like Matthew 5:4. It says, "Blessed are those who mourn, for they shall be comforted."
Mm.
Psalm 34:18 says, "The Lord is near to the brokenhearted and saves the crushed in spirit." Psalm 147:3 says, "He heals the brokenhearted and binds up their wounds." Isaiah 61:2-3 says, "God promises to comfort all who mourn in Zion and give them the oils of gladness instead of mourning." And the last one on here says, 1 Peter 5:7, "Casting all your anxieties on him because he cares for you." So it's kind of like what we just said, as far as like it talks about healing the brokenhearted, those that are, blessed, they will be blessed. Those who mourn, they will be comforted. So there's this like you're mourning, but you're not going to always be in that state of always being like mourning, if you know what I mean.
Yes.
Like you're always like, I think when you deal with grief, I think you always have it with you, but you're not always in a state of mourning,
Right.
which is the expression of grief.
Right.
Because grief is what you feel inside. The mourning's on the outside. So you're not going to be in a state of crying all the time, right? That's not the way grief works or life works, because we have moments that are happy. So, but I want to kind of let you share your experience with grief and your journey and things that you've learned about yourself and how you grew from grief.
There's different types of grief too. I think people tend to naturally tie grief to loss of life,
Right.
or loss of, even a pet that you loved and was like a child to you, but we'll focus on the loss of life, is typically where people think that's the only thing you grieve. But we actually grieve the loss of a lot of things. You grieve the loss of friendships.
Mm-hmm.
You grieve the loss of spiritual connection.
Mm.
We grieve the loss of a business, or something that you've invested so much time and energy into that doesn't succeed. We're you even have to make a decision to let it go. And the grief begins really before that. It's a process.
Right, anticipatory. Right?
Yes, it's the process of, well, what if, right? Because most people what if down in a negative way. Um, and so it starts with that. I mean, I grieved when my grandmother passed away, years ago. I grieved when and that was my mom's mom. I grieved when in my 20s, my early 20s, my aunt passed away from ovarian cancer, my dad's sister. And that was an experience, because you're not just grieving your own loss, but you're grieving for, I was grieving for my dad and his siblings, and my grandmother was still alive at the time. She was only 42 years old, and or 46. Sorry, she was 46. And that was I mean, that was a really challenging one, because there was just so much involved with that. Uh, but it's different, and it was there, and then it was gone, and the thoughts are always there. I mean, we still talk about it. We talk about her all the time. I mean, I'm talking about it right now. But and I've had, loss of friendships and, other things like that. But the greatest moment of grief in my life was the loss of my mom. And that was 10 years ago. And so, um, being there with her when she took her last breath, uh, I would say grief really even started before that, because it was, okay, well, if she does survive this, she's going to have a colostomy bag for the rest of her life. And, what kind of quality of life is that? And, you're just like in this tailspin of, how is she going to, like, that's not my mom, like, she wouldn't want that. But when she passed, we were all with her, all 6 of us kids, and even our dad, who was her ex-husband. He was there with her. He was with us as well. And a very dear friend of the family was with us too, and she was a nurse and was really incredible about. She'd been in hospice care in the past, and she was very, very deeply connected in her faith, her faith and her connection, relationship with Christ. And she was there really to cheer on my mom's transitioning to heaven. It was like, we're all there, we're all touching her. And, and even in this moment, there was a funny moment, because my mom was such a stubborn person that, it was like, was that the last breath? And then she'd take one more breath, and one of my older brothers goes, come on, even in this moment, you have to be stubborn, like, just like, because we're all like on bated breath in our own way, right? Like, is that it? And then there was, another breath, and you're like, okay. So it's, again, that anticipatory moment. And here Robin is at the foot of the bed, and she's just like, praise Jesus. Like, it was such a odd moment. And she was over here just like raising her up, and the youngest kids that were there, they weren't in the room, but before we got to this moment, the babies were they were looking up. I mean, they saw the angels waiting for her. And that in itself was just really amazing. So that moment, that same brother jetted out. He left. He was like, peace out. That was, he's got to go start his grieving process in his own way. And we were all there, and then everybody else dissipated. And the last 2 left standing were myself and my eldest brother, Rich. until they, took our mom away, the ME. And so, solemn, like a very odd. It was so odd. It was just odd. I don't know how to explain it any other way because it was, we're like, don't zip the bag up all the way,
Mm.
right? Even though I knew she was gone. I mean, her body was, her vessel was dead, but her spirit was alive. But it was just that weird thing, like, just, not until you get out of the room. And everybody basically congregated and met back at my house, dad, sisters, the one brother. And everybody was just all in that same kind of, it's like shocking. There was no tears, like I couldn't cry. In fact, I did not cry for I think 2.5, 3 months,
Oh, wow.
because there was just like one process after the next, after the next, after the next, and things that had to be wrapped up. Um, and we had one, service here after she was cremated, and then we all flew to New Jersey, and we had a service there with, her brother and aunts, uncles, cousins, and all that stuff, and the people who, really knew her, and, growing up there. And from there, I flew to Nashville to perform at CMA Fest. And from there, I flew directly to Minnesota to catch up with my family on vacation. So there was no time to really process and get into a moment of what is grief
Mm.
in that way. And so when I got back from all this traveling, and I went to my chiropractor, and we grief gets trapped in your chest. It holds in here, so your clavicles, and so my clavicles were just constantly popping out of place. I don't know if you've ever heard of the book "The Body Keeps the Score."
Mm-mm.
So you're going to feel grief in your body physically. It affects every part of you,
Mhm.
really, but it really affects the upper portion.
Mm.
And she was like, okay, you've got to try and see this other person. I think she could really help you do some acupuncture and do some other things. And she um, just really kind of had a divine spiritual connection. And the first visit with her, she told me things that nobody would have known. And so that was that. And we took it a step further in the next one. And she goes, well, have you grieved yet? I was like, I don't know. What does grief feel like? What am I supposed to do? Like,
I know.
right? Because nobody
Yeah.
teaches yet. I mean,
Yeah.
there's nothing. I mean, how do you teach that? Right?
Right.
It's you don't just step into it. And I was like, I don't know. I don't know what to do. So she's like, okay, we're gonna tap in. And so she did tap in, and she did. And she's a believer, by the way, because I know some people who get very freaky about spirituality, and understanding that we live in the spirit world. It's not just in heaven. I mean, they are amongst us, just as we are souls. We just still have our vessels. And my mom was there, and she said some things to me that only my mother would know or would say. And oof, um, that was the first time I cried. And I cried for probably 3 days in a way that I've never cried in my entire life. And it was finally releasing. I was releasing the grief from my body and from my mind and from my emotional stuff. Like I finally just let it all out. Like that feeling, just talking about it, that feeling that I had in that moment almost just made me, start crying, because it was intense. It was really, really intense. But I'm so glad that I experienced it, because I let myself feel all the feelings that I had. Anger, because within grief there is also anger. Sometimes it's, in this case, I was angry that my mom didn't take care of herself um, the way she should have,
Mm.
the way she could have. She was only 67.
Wow, that's young.
She was young, and so and even now I look at her younger sister died of lung cancer at 68, and now their youngest brother, my uncle Bobby, the only one left in New Jersey, is battling. He battled some colon cancer, and it's gone to his liver. So and he's 69.
Wow.
So
young.
yes, yeah, all three of them.
Wow.
Yeah, and their father died of cancer too, and my mom had some cancer in her lungs, but she had COPD, and so complications from the COPD affected her colon, and then other things, and so they didn't really ever they didn't dive deeper into her. So there was anger there too, and I had a horrible palliative doctor who said, "Well, your mom's." I said, "Well, what is she actually dying of?" And he said, "Well, she's very old." And I said, "Excuse me?" I was like, and this is in her room.
Oh, wow.
I was like, "My mother is 67 years old." Well, physically, but that's the problem, right? With older people, they look at them as though they're just all sick, and unless you have a really good geriatric doctor, they just don't care. They just tend to not care. And so, anyway, so I I went through the crying stage, and then it was, on with my life, right? I had 3 kids, I had a husband, I had a business, although, um, that was the part I realized where I got stuck. I had my business shop is on our property out back in the house, and, behind the house, and this was my fashion business, and I've recorded all my music out there too. Um, I didn't write for a couple of years,
Mm.
which is really strange to not be writing any songs, because typically grief and anger is where kind of sparks a lot of good stuff for us to write. And and I mean, I'll just say that I'm really experiencing some of it now, because I'm we put a pool table also in where my shop is. And I realized I haven't worked out here in 10 years.
Wow.
I did not work in that space for 10 years.
Wow.
Yeah. So all my stock is out there, and I had some creative, space there, and I did not use it for that long. So now I'm in the process of being angry at myself, having to clean up my mess, and facing the fact that, okay, what was it? And I part of it is, when I first invented Tiffy sleeves, my mom sewed the first pair for me. She was part of the whole process. And so it's the only part that I can equate as to why maybe I I didn't even realize that I hadn't been out there in 10 years.
Wow.
I mean, it's absolutely insane. And I remember after Mother's Day, Todd had bought me a custom pool stick, because I do play, and it happens to be one of my really good things that I'm good at. And he was trying to get me to go out there and play with him and the boys, and I got so angry about it, I started to cry. Like, what is the deal? Like, harping on me to go out there, right? And I mean, that was part of it. I did end up going out there. I did play, and I think that was part of it, is I did not want to face um what I just kind of like buried and walked away from for 10 years. It's really weird. Like, really, 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 it's a very strange part of the grief. So, 10 years later, grief is still here, but I'm not stuck in it anymore. So, and it really, like I said, I didn't really, like, if I had to put it into compartments, I would put that that grief of not working out in that space into its own compartment, because I was still going on about my life in all of these other realms. So never die. I've never, I never really dove into it with a counselor or anything like that. I don't know if I need to anymore. I mean, I think I just need to get my shit done, get my stuff in order, and tackle what I need to tackle out there, and hopefully that will open up Pandora's, box
Well, I think
for
that in of itself will be therapeutic for you.
yeah.
Going out there and doing that. So I don't think you need counseling.
Well,
at
I
this
did get a
point.
little pissed off, and I took a whole bunch of shit out of there that night. And this was probably a month ago, and I just started throwing shit outside like trash, like just I don't need this anymore. Throw it away, and you let things just kind of build up, right?
Mhm.
I mean, it's how some people end up into a hoarding situation. That's not what this was. I'm just talking about things that I had within my business that I used to use, but I hadn't touched in 10 years. So clearly I don't need it.
Right.
And so in this self anger, yeah, I just started picking stuff up and throwing it out the double doors. My husband was like, all right, she's got something going on.
She's having a moment.
I was having a moment.
That's okay.
I was having a moment. So yeah, and I'm probably not done with that. I mean, I really don't want to tackle this project. Unfortunately, I have to. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see as I go through that process what unfolds. If anything else unfolds out of it and what I uncover. Part of my mom's book collection is out there. She was an antiquarian book dealer.
Oh, wow.
So I have a part of the collection is at the house, and then there's 2 storage units that have to be unfilled and sold. So, and they're all out of print, antique, ephemera paper, stuff like that. So it has to go to like a collection house. But there's just a lot of organizing and all these other elements that are part of that. That again, I have not finished. Now I'm not alone in this because I do have siblings, and so, but it's a giant project to tackle. So it may be too that I've been, putting that off. So yeah, so I'm still unpacking. 10 years later, right? Just unpacking that stuff. But I've never curled up in my bed and stayed there. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing, because I know people have to go through that. You have to go through what you're going through anyway. Nobody should ever tell you what your grief should look like.
Nope.
And I don't care if it was your last show or the show before. I think it was the last show. That was the young man.
That was 2 weeks ago.
That was 2 weeks ago. Yes, you had the chaplain last week, where he said someone's told him to stop grieving, or
you have a month to grieve. He said.
Yeah, who puts a timeline on that? That part to me was just absolutely amazing in that conversation. I was like, what? Who would be dumb enough to say that to somebody? There is absolutely no timeline, and it comes in waves. I would say that, as each year went by after her passing, it, coming up on her birthday or the anniversary of her passing, it got less and less, and the weight was lighter. I think that's a good way to say it.
Yeah, it is.
Well, you want to take it out? It's your show.
Yeah. Well, that's our music. So we'll be back in 2 minutes.
Do you want to save money on your next flight? Then pick up the phone and call. That's right. Call, because the best prices are not online. They're with SmartFares. See, SmartFares has special deals with the airlines. When they have unsold seats, they use SmartFares to fill them. So you get airline tickets at ridiculously low prices. Our prices are too low to publish online. With the extra money you'll save, you can book another trip or treat yourself to dinner or shopping. So stop searching all of those travel sites to find the lowest price on your next flight. Let one of our SmartFares expert travel agents find ridiculously low prices for you. Call SmartFares today and get the best price on your next flight. Guaranteed. Also, save up to 50% off business and first class tickets.
855-325-1820. 855-325-1820. That's 855-325-1820. Have you ever met a single person in your life that enjoys paying taxes? No, no one does. If you can't sleep at night because you have a huge problem with the IRS, I've got some free advice for you. This service is strictly limited to individuals that owe the IRS $10,000 or more in back taxes. And if you qualify, we can guarantee that you won't be writing a big fat check to the IRS, or our services cost you nothing. The first 100 people that call today will get a free tax consultation worth $500. Stop worrying about your IRS problem. We can help you, we promise. Call the tax doctor right now. I mean right now, to learn more. 800-240-4587. 800-240-4587. 800-240-4587. That's 800-240-4587.
All right, well, welcome. I didn't unmute. Did I unmute? Welcome back to the second half of A Common Thread. I am not your host. I'm your guest, Tiffany Carlen, but I am a host on another show. So while she takes care of something, while Sonia takes care of something, I'll go ahead and read the commercial. Yes. NTX Radio proudly serves all of North Texas and can be heard all over the world on the TuneIn Radio Network and on the NTX Radio app, available on Android and Apple CarPlay, or you can just ask Alexa to play NTX Radio. We thank if you want to learn more about all of our other shows and each one of our hosts, you can go to ntxradio.com and click on the show tab and scroll down, learn about our hosts, and you can find ways to contact them directly if you're looking to be a guest, if you have an idea or a topic idea, something that you want to talk about. You can reach out to any one of us on the website. We thank our valued sponsors in helping us amplify the voices of North Texas communities and businesses. So protect your family with the Willer Trust. Connect with Todd Hurd and Associates, attorneys at law, for all your civil law needs at texasattorneylaw.com. And if you're processing credit cards, join the Swipe Nation today and save on processing fees at swipenationusa.com. Locally owned and operated, and will be any rates. And got sleeves, dress your arms, and more at thetiffy.com. That's THETIFFIE.com for women's accessories and more, made right here in the USA. And it's time to take your business to the next level. Hosting a radio show and podcast is a powerful way to connect with a wider audience, build brand awareness, and drive sales. Let's discuss your business goals and how a custom show can help you achieve them. You can email me, Tiffany, at t.hurd@ntxradio.com. I would love to help get your voice and your brand amplified right here on NTX Radio. So, Sonia, your host, is back.
Yes, I am back. Thanks for coming back and joining us. You know, in the first half, Tiffany, you said something in that moment that you actually 3-4 months later were able to feel the grief. And I thought at that moment, you know, for you, that was a really meaningful, sacred moment. Because I feel like grief is one of those things that, like, to the most sacred times in your life, in the beginning of your life when you're born, and at the end of your life when you're dying. You know, and in hospice, you know, the motto is we want to give people good quality of life at the end of life, but a whole person care, right? Not just the physical, but also the spiritual, the emotional part of it, because we are all that as a person, right? We're not just the physical. And it made me think of different ways people grieve, different ways people express grief. different cultures. There are some cultures that maybe are more expressive than others. There's some cultures that are expressing grief as a no-no. Like that's something you kind of do privately. You don't do that in public. Men and women, we grieve. Men and women grieve differently. However, you have to take in personality as well. I don't know. For me, it was hard because I'm an extrovert, and so for me, talking about the grief helped me a lot.
Right.
And the less I talked about it, the more depressed I felt. That's just the way I felt. My husband was the complete opposite. He did not want to talk about it. He wanted to wallow and listen to really.
And we're talking about the
depressing-
loss of your son.
the loss of
Yes.
loss of my son. For those that are joining us for the first time, he was 9 years old. So
with childhood cancer.
he had cancer.
Yes.
He had leukemia, and
Which I can't imagine. I mean, it's a very, to me, if you can ever, there are different levels of grief, and that can be deeper. And I know I did not lose a child, but I almost lost my child. And the depth of the grief that I experienced instantaneously when I couldn't get back here because I was 18 hours away was a way deeper grief than I experienced in the grief of the loss of my mother. Completely different. So I applaud you because I don't know if I'd be here in the same capacity if she didn't live. Truly, I don't know how you did it. I really don't. I just, I mean, I know we've talked about it briefly, but I can't imagine. I mean, I can imagine, but I fully can't imagine because she is still here and your son is not. And I just think you're an amazing individual that not only did you go through what you went through in this loss and then your next loss, but here you are studying to be a chaplain and helping other people, which, people say, oh, there's a blessing in everything, right? Which, I mean, I think that's a really challenging thing to say. It's most definitely something you should not say to someone because you just want to go, shut the F up. Like, you have seriously, I'm trying to be good here on your show with my Jersey potty mouth. But seriously, you just want to look at someone and go, in that moment, shut the F up. Like, just like your guest a couple weeks ago was like, just tell me how long it takes to, that's where you're like rolling up your sleeves to, like, just shut it. Like, you just don't even understand. You can't say that to somebody. But a blessing, there are blessings that come, but it's not because of the loss.
No.
It's because of how you triumph through it, and God gives you the next task from things that you've learned in those moments of grief and loss that we can, if we're accepting of saying, yes, okay, I'll get out of bed, God, and I'll stop feeling the shittiness I'm feeling, and I'll do what you want me to do. And sometimes that's how we have to do it, truly, is to say yes to him in those moments of,
even when we don't want to.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, because we don't.
Yeah.
It's like a little kid, like our kids were like that even now, like my son being older.
Oh, yeah.
He's 16 and he's still like, I'll tell him to, like grudgingly he does stuff, it's like, we're no different. We're like that with God, we're
his children. I mean, he's very expectant of us to be defiant. I mean, truly. I mean, he knew we were all going to sin. So, I mean, he was like, I already got a plan. Don't worry about it. Okay. Because you people are going to do some stupid stuff. And you're going to be mean and you're going to be ugly sometimes. And you're going to make poor choices and you're not going to make the choices that I told you to make. So I've already taken care of that with my son. Okay. So I'll have my son and I'm going to kill him on a cross for you. He's going to sacrifice his life. And you know what I mean? Like, don't you ever just think about how he's talking in heaven? Like, God, you people are just, why can't you just listen to me? Right. And then there are those moments where we do listen and we do say yes in those deep moments of feeling really shitty. I just think there's just no better way of saying it than using a word like that, because it is the depth of feeling absolutely horrible. I mean, really, really horrible. And I will say that during periods in, or I'll say one period in the past 5 years. What year is it? It's 2025. Past 4 years that I did think about driving into a tree.
Mm.
So everything was compounding. I wouldn't have done it just because my faith is so much deeper than that. But it was a thought. It was a very, very deep thought. I had lots of things coming from multiple angles, and that grief of my daughter almost dying was ever present. Ever present, and then living in a fight or flight mode for 4 years.
Wow.
Of the phone ringing at 2 a.m. So, for all of your children, because you then become paranoid about everything.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, that happened like when our son died with our youngest, the littlest cough, because that's how it started with our son, our oldest with a cough. And so when our youngest 3 or 4 months later got a cough, we were like, how long has he been coughing? Maybe we should take him to the doctor. Like, he just started coughing that morning. And we were already like, oh my gosh, can this be it? Because that's how that started. It was such an innocent cough. And then it ended up being like he got really sick and then and having cancer. So, you were talking about like, people like there's a purpose or there's something good that's going to come out of this. And I think Keith and I touched on that 2 weeks ago briefly. There's those like quiet gifts that we have in us that are dormant and they're there, but for some reason they just haven't come to the surface. But then in those moments, again, it's not, the thing is, okay, what we have to do is we have to realize that what is happening is not good. So you losing your mom, you going through stuff with your daughter, me losing my son and my husband, none of that's good. None of it. So please don't say that to people.
The grief is coming again.
It's okay.
This is I mean, this is going to be rough because I just got a text from my cousin wanting to FaceTime with all of us. So my Uncle Bobby that I was talking about, he I flew out there a month ago to just kind of help get some things organized around the house and give some relief to my cousin and one of my, because they're all, your 3 kids, and one has 3 little boys, running around, and things just kind of got crazy. So his numbers had jumped within 2 weeks in his liver. And so they went from giving him a year to a year and a half to maybe 6 weeks, or I'm sorry, 3 weeks.
Wow.
The youngest, or I'm sorry, the last of the 3 cousins, my cousin Jonathan's getting married in 4 weeks. So the hope was, I guess, after the blood test that was taken while I was there, and we got the results back. That's when my cousin called me and said, "Hey, this isn't good. The numbers have doubled." And then the next day, the blood that they had taken that day hadn't doubled. And so they were going to put him on a low dose chemo to see how it would go. If it went great, they'll up it a little bit, and the hopes were to get through the wedding,
Right.
make the wedding. And I just got a text that hospice is being called today. They called hospice. So one of my other cousins, the daughter of my my mom's sister who passed away. She's there right now with her husband, so that's great. They flew in to get time. So I think I'm probably gonna be on a plane tomorrow,
I'm sorry, Tiffany.
unfortunately. So at least to have that time, whatever time we can have together, and help my aunt get through this, and my cousins, and then all my siblings. So that just sucks. I like almost wish I didn't look at my phone, but I mean, it is part of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think we're gonna get on a FaceTime here as soon as we're off the show, and get all the news. So I mean, we knew it was a crapshoot. I mean, you didn't know what you were gonna get. Like, God, I was really hoping for the 4 weeks. I was really, really hoping for it. But yeah, I fear for my aunt's grief.
Mm.
Truly, truly, really, really, really concerned about it. It's been a rough 10 years, I think, for all of us. You know, that was, you know, my uncle's big sister. You know, she kind of held all the, you know, I think the pieces together when she still lived in New Jersey, and then she moved out here. And I think when she moved out here, that really sunk them.
Mm.
And even though they had their own kids there, and my brothers, one of my eldest brother is still there, and her father was alive, my aunt's father. But 10 years ago, when my mom passed, my aunt's mother passed within a couple of months. So they died within a couple of months of each other. And then my aunt lost a cousin within this, not that same year. And then there was somebody else, and then there was a friend. I mean, it was just like one after the other. And then her father passed away last year.
Wow.
And he lived a very long life. Fred was such an amazing man. I called him mon frère. So that whole side of the family is French. And I mean French. So yeah. And my Uncle Bobby is he's a great human. I mean, he really is a good person. He's just, even in all of this, he was still out working. He owns a landscape company, and he's been out, I think, up until the past few days, working every single day. And that's just who he is. He's just wanted to make sure, he just wants to stay in motion. Right.
Right.
I think a lot of people expect people to just stop and be sick. And that's just not his way. And I think that was the most frustrating part for him, is to be in that moment. So, yeah, wow, was a turn of a conversation. I'm so sorry.
No, that's okay. I mean, hey, you know, we're talking about, you know, there's power in people's stories. And at the end of life, I think the one gift we can give people is allow them to tell their story and live out their story in your life. I think that's the most important thing you can do, is live out their legacy in your life. Like you were saying about how he's not the type of person that would just sit around. My husband was like, at the end of his life, like he went to Colombia for 6 weeks, which I was not happy about. But his mom would take videos of him and send them to me, and he would be jumping off a cliff into like a lake. And he felt so refreshed. And they would walk from like their house to the lake every day. Like they would get up really early, like 6 o'clock in the morning, because they didn't want to deal with the heat, you know, Colombia being humid. And it was January, so it wasn't that hot. I mean, it was not hot here, but there it's warm all the time. Anyway, they would just get up really early, and they would start walking, get there about 7, and they'd spend a couple of hours there. He'd get it all out and then come back. And he felt like, you know, I mean, he had his moments throughout the day that he didn't feel well, but it was just something about like just getting out. And that's just part of who he is, you know. And people are not just, when someone is going through something like that, they're not just grieving. There's so many griefs. The person that's actually sick, they're dealing with not just the illness, but they're dealing all the multiple losses that they're going to experience. So like when he came back, He came back on a Thursday. Tuesday, he ended up in the hospital, and he was there until he died. And I remember he died on a Monday. That Sunday before, our son was at some friend's house, and he slept over there, and they brought him to the hospital. And my son went up to him, and in Spanish, my husband said, "Qué lindo es," how handsome you are. And me and my friend just sobbed because I knew exactly what he meant when he said that. This is all I'm going to see. This is all I'm going to get. I'm going to
Mm.
see you until you're like, because my son was almost 9 at that point. He was going to be 9 in about 6 weeks. So I'm only going to get to see my son up to this point. So I'm going to savor it. So just, when people are sitting in a bed or they're going through hospice or whatever it is, they're just thinking about their life, and some good moments, but a lot of the moments that they're not going to get. So I think the one thing that we try to do in hospice is always try to do a life review with people and allow them just to share good and bad.
My mom didn't get to do that because, they moved her to hospice from the hospital, and
Mhm.
she was gone in less than 24 hours.
Oh, it was that quick.
Yeah, it was quick. But what I did get to experience with her in the hospital was after being intubated for quite a while, it's really challenging to talk.
Right.
And so she was kind of mouthing stuff um, and writing. We got her, like a dry erase board that she was writing on. The nurse brought that in, and but what I watched her go through, and this is something I think so important for people to understand. If you ever experience anyone in your life in ICU coming out of, whether it's a coma or an induced coma, self induced, not self induced, but you know what I mean,
Right.
or an induced coma, they go through what the hospital staff will call ICU psychosis.
Mm.
And that's where they're just looking. I mean, if you're watching this is, I don't have a way to describe this with words, maybe a little bit, but they're looking all over the room and their eyes are going big and pulling, they pull back like, I can't, and you don't understand. And so when you ask staff, they'll tell you it's ICU psychosis. Now, when you talk to someone who's more spiritually connected, they will tell you, oh no, there's angels in the room. And because when you're, like you said, you were closest to the Lord and your spirituality and your spiritual self at birth, and then in death is that next closest. So my mom was experiencing that. And I asked her once she became lucid and was beyond this, what they call this psychosis part. I was like, well, what were you seeing a couple of, days ago? Do you remember? And she shook her head. And I said, were you seeing angels? What were you seeing? And she said, yes. I mean, it was very, very clear what she was seeing. And so just keep that in mind. Like, if you think somebody's going insane when they're in that moment, I guarantee you they are having a very spiritual moment is what they're going through. And so that was really good. We had a very, open family. There isn't anything that we didn't talk about. And so my mom had, I think there's 13 grandchildren,
Wow.
6 kids, a bonus. There's 7 of us. And 13 grandchildren, or 14. Wait, I have 3. Tamara's 2. That's 5. I actually start with the 3s. 3, 6, 9, 11, 13, 14. There's 14.
Okay.
So 14 grandkids. So my mom, she lived for her grandkids. And I think that over the years, because this wasn't the first time she came close to dying. And so I think that she had a lot of those moments already. And we had conversations, probably, 6 months before that where she, asked me some very personal questions about things I won't talk about right now. It's another show. But she wanted to know my why. She wanted to understand it because of things that had happened to her in her childhood that didn't happen to me in my childhood.
Okay.
And so 2 different experiences in childhood led to being a different type of woman. And she wanted to understand it. And, I laid it out for her, but I appreciated that she finally asked those questions, and I've always known my mother's why, which I think is also extremely important message that I can pass on to anyone, is to know your parents' why before they pass on. Don't wait till they're gone to try and like figure out why they were the way they were, all those things. If you didn't grow up in a open family that talked about things like real things, I'm so sorry, but that doesn't mean you can't ask those questions later in life. And I think it's so, it's not a think. I know that is one of the most important things that you can do before you lose someone is to really, really know their why. And I'm very, very grateful that I know the why of both of my parents. And I appreciate that both of them talked about it. Maybe my mom didn't always talk about it in a healthy way, because she had her own baggage, right? But I understand why. But I understand why it happened like that. So I think it's just really, really important to try and have that, and that can really help you get through, I think, stages of grief as well. Because if you don't have those questions and you don't know that why, it could make you ask so many more questions in a moment of grief.
Yeah.
So try and have those conversations, and sometimes we don't get to have those we don't get that chance. So I mean, don't hang on to any kind of guilt for it either.
Right. I mean, we can't plan these things, but if you're able to have the conversation, but of course it may not happen. But
how long was it? I know we got less than a minute. How long was it between the loss of your son and your husband?
26 months.
Wow, man, that's just.
My husband got sick the same year that our son died. He died in January. My husband got sick in September of 2016.
Wow.
Yep. So, well, Tiffany, thank you so much for coming on.
You're welcome.
I appreciate you sharing your story and becoming vulnerable. And that's what it's all about,
Thank you for asking me.
Absolutely.
I hope it helped. I hope it helps somebody that is, stepping into it, going through it, or has already gone through it. And I'm an open book. So if you ever want to talk and you know me or you know how to reach me, go ahead.
Well, as we always end our show, don't give up, hold on to Jesus, and keep looking up. We'll see you next time.
This is the voice of Johnson County, Joco Community Radio.
Why have thousands of aspiring authors teamed up with Christian Faith Publishing to publish their book? Because Christian Faith Publishing is an author-friendly publisher who understands that your labor is more than just a book. We provide authors freedom and flexibility throughout the publishing process, professional book editing, award-winning design, and some of the highest royalty structures in the publishing industry. And as always, you will retain 100% of the rights to your book.
I was looking to find a company that I could trust, one that assisted in the editing process completely.
The most important qualities that I was looking for was a publisher who was honest and upfront, no hidden costs or fees, and owning the rights to my own work.
Christian Faith Publishing will publish, market, and sell your books in all major bookstores, online booksellers, as well as specialty Christian bookstores. Call for your free author submission kit.
800-970